amigos de aire que le veo, pero... ¿Qué es eso? Era Tony. Y tu recto del estadio de Tony de hoy, para que vamos pero anda.
Good morning from London. Good morning from London town. This is the Irish NFL show live from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, London, ahead of the big game today, the Dolphins, the Jags. Welcome to everybody watching around the world in Ireland, the UK, Europe, and in the US. If you're watching this in the US, fair play to you lads at that time in the morning. Colin Cronin, Brian O'Leary, and Mark Cockerell is here. He's back. Welcome in. Obviously, just want to start off the show by just thanking everybody that came last night to the meetup in London. Fantastic night's crack. Great to meet people from home and people from further afield as well. And thanks a million. But Colin, welcome in. We're back in London, and you're now sporting a different shirt this week. You got a lot of feedback last week online.
Well, I hate to disappoint. Brian tells me that there are people out there who keep an eye on the shirts that I that I wear, so just have to keep people happy. But yeah, throwback today with the Jetsons, the Flintstones, and a few others.
Absolutely, Brian. We're back. We're back in London, and a decent game today with the Jets and the Dolphins. The Jets and the Dolphins. Wow. The Jags and the Dolphins. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's an interesting game. I know the records so far this season probably don't reflect that, but we're going to see Tua, Dolphins quarterback, picked last year in the draft, fifth pick from Alabama. Had a reasonably good season last year. He's been injured since the first game. He played initially in week 2 against the Bills, got injured. So we've yet to see much from him, and we don't really know how good he is really to a certain extent in terms of playing in the NFL. There's still question marks over whether he's the long-term plan for the Dolphins. And on the other side, Urban Meyer, all the the controversy over the past week, past
controversy.
Since that Bengal game. Obviously, last week I picked them, but they didn't show up really, and they lost to the Titans, who rebounded off the Jets' loss. But we're going to see Trevor Lawrence today, the first round pick last year in the most recent draft out of Clemson. Everybody says he's a generational quarterback. We're going to see him firsthand today. Really looking forward to it. I think we've got to make it a really good game.
Absolutely. I just want to thank everyone that's watching so far. Feel free to comment. We'll try and shout it out. At some point, we'll see the crack. Mark, welcome in.
Michael.
It must have been torture hearing me give your picks last week. Sitting in
It wasn't great. I feel a bit like Adele, though, now, because this week it's like hello from the other side of the Irish Sea. So she's a Tottenham girl as well, so she's local.
Is she?
So, yeah, she is. So, anyway, she's quite big. She's doing quite well. We've got 2 teams here that aren't doing quite well at the moment, but hopefully they can start to turn their seasons around. I mean, it is the unfortunate thing. For every London game, we've never had a game between 2 teams with winning records when they've come. And we do have the 1-4 Dolphins against the 0-5 Jags. But as Brian said, hope springs eternal. And the quarterbacks we're about to see in today's game obviously have great potential for the future. A lot of Finns fans there who aren't sold on Tua. And obviously they want to see him in the flesh and judge with their own eyes. But Trevor Lawrence, so far, he's everything that was advertised. But what in God's name is his head coach doing to him and that franchise?
We'll talk about that game in 2 seconds. We've got Phoebe Schechter coming on, a former Bills coach, works in Germany with American football now. She's coming on in about 20 minutes or so. Richard Graves coming on at 10 a.m. as well. Can't wait to speak to Richard. And also hello to everyone watching. Hi to Robin watching from Portugal. Bon dia, buenos dias, I don't know, but welcome. Thank you as well. Look, let's get it started off. We're going to look through every game if we can. If we're here to kick off, it'll be fine. Dolphins, Jags, right behind us, Colin. 2:30 kickoff, live. It's on BBC Two NI, so you can watch it wherever. I'm presuming it's not blocking the iPlayer and it's live.
No.
All good, right? What's your thoughts on this game today? Who's going to win?
Who's going to win? Well, the Jags haven't won a game since week 1 of last year. 20 games lost on the bounce. And their pass defense is horrible. So you think surely any team facing them, but it's asking a lot for Tua to come back, go straight in. As Brian says, we haven't seen a lot of him this year, to come straight back in and take advantage of that. Also, the fact that the Dolphins, who I expected to do really well this year, but defensively they've been awful. Last week gave up 411 yards, 5 touchdowns, obviously to Tom Brady, but it's just with Xavier Howard out. It's another loss for them. For the Jags, if they are to win it, Robinson's going to have to be a really important factor. I think I had the Free the Chicago One campaign. Maybe I'm going to have to start a campaign for the Jacksonville one. Although, look, Trevor Lawrence is growing and maturing into his role. I think the last few weeks you've really seen him, and to me that shows the value of playing a young QB from the start. I think the Jags are capable of shocking the Dolphins. I think this is the week when a rookie QB finally gets a win in London. I'm going to go Jags.
Ooh.
Last night at our event, it was great to see so many Dolphins fans in terms of coming along. And the common theme when we had a conversation with them around why the team isn't playing this well, and Colum's alluded to there, is the defense. Myself and Colin picked them to be in the playoffs come the end of the season. We felt after last year's 10-6 and how unfortunate they were not to make the playoffs that this season would be a stepping stone in many ways. Tua will progress. Obviously, he's been out injured. And we would see that defense to kind of continue to grow, and having brought in a really explosive player such as Waddle in the draft, along with Fuller, Parker, who's again another wide receiver who's out injured today, and Krasicki, the tight end, who I think is quite underrated to a certain extent, felt they had enough on offense to really build a team that would have a really solid season, and it hasn't materialized. So you wonder, are they capable of winning this game? You know, if anything, just an opportunity for the Jags. It's like a sense of freedom that they've come to London, because in the years where they've been poor, they've still had a reasonably good record in London. They've won 3 games, you know, and sometimes they have caused shocks. But this defense for the Jags as well is so they're underwhelming. It's like they've given up over 22 points in 20 games in a row now. They haven't won since week 1 last year. It's like they don't know how to win, you know, where I believe Flores still does know how to win. I think the fact that Tua is coming back, going into a bye, if they were to win this game, potentially it gives them a little bit of an uplift to potentially move on and get themselves back in the hunt for a wild card. So for me, I think it'll be a tight game. I think it'll go into the 4th quarter and potentially, you know, flip-flopping in terms of who has the leads. But in the end, I think the Dolphins will just come out on top.
The 1977 Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost 26 games in a row. The 1945 Chicago Cardinals lost 29 games in a row. These are the records that the Jacksonville Jaguars are targeting right now. They are in historic levels of ineptitude, to be really blunt about it. Like Brian, I do feel that a win might be around the corner. You know, the games inevitably are always close in the NFL. Teams are leveled, and Trevor Lawrence is a transcendental talent. But the problem is they keep getting in their own way. Their takeaway giveaway ratio at the moment is -10 through 5 weeks. -10. They've had 1 takeaway and 11 giveaways. That is just unsustainable. Another weird one is they still haven't kicked a field goal, which I don't understand. But anyway, that's kind of completely unrelated. The Dolphins, though, like the guys say, how can you trust them? They're 31st in terms of yards per attempt on offense. Sorry, yards per game on offense. And also their defense has fallen apart. It's in the bottom quartile, or 31st and 32nd in so many categories. 3rd down defense, 3rd down percentages, red zone touchdown percentages. It is not performing, and it's really unexpected with Flores, where he was getting defense last year and what he was building. Ultimately, this comes down to who do you trust least, potentially. And a random stat of the week, the over, I think, with Matchbook is is 46.5 points. The Finns have played here in London 4 times. They're 1-3. The only win they've had, they covered that level of points within the game. It was over 46. So I'm going to go, screw it. The defense are bad enough. Both teams are going to put up a lot of points. We're going to see a great, entertaining, fantastic game. And the Dolphins, somehow, some way, are going to eke it out.
Absolutely. The Irish NFL show presented by Trust Gaming and also by our partners over at Matchbook. In terms of talking about Matchbook and betting, it's hard to put money on the Jags today. I just can't see how, and I agree with you, Brian, I can't see how Trevor Lawrence is going to put as many points on the Dolphins. I think Tua is going to come into London re-energized. And as honestly, as a fan of the game, I'm excited for this game today because I want to see Tua come back in and play. Is Mike Gesicki starting? Is he playing?
Yeah, he can play. Yeah.
Playing.
There you go. There you go. That's all I need to say. Now, I'm not saying put money on Gesicki to score a couple of touchdowns, but I just can't see, after everything that's happened the last couple of weeks with Urban Meyer, with the travel to London, etc., how the Jaguars are going to put up 35 points. And I just hope it's a tight game. I think the Dolphins are going to win it.
Sorry, one final point.
Yeah,
it's kind of telling because they're going into the bye week and haven't had the Urban Meyer fiasco over the past 2 weeks. There's a lot of people that feel it is a make or break game for them, because if they are to make a change, you know, what we've seen in the past in the NFL is if a team's going to make a change on a coaching position, they tend to wait till the bye week. So if they were to lose today and go 0-6 leading into a bye week, you know, you could potentially see a change coming, because in the long run, he's not the answer. You know, he's still with the college mindset, and that's not going to work in the NFL. So he's going to go at some stage.
And actually, you're saying about the Jags having to make a change. The Dolphins, if they don't win today, their season's effectively over.
They have to win this game.
If they don't win 2 of the next 3 games, no team has ever come back from that record to make the playoffs at any point. I know we got a 17-game season here, but now is the moment of their, this is the winter of their discontent. This is the moment to seize the day. If they win, have the bye, get some momentum, they've still got an outside chance. But today, this is their Waterloo.
Excited to see. Have you had that? Are you happy enough? Yeah, you happy
Oh,
enough?
I'm
Yeah,
happy
you,
enough.
you look like you wanted to say something. Excited to see Trevor. Excited to see Tua today in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium behind this kickoff. It's 2:30. It's on BBC Two NI on a BBC iPlayer. I think it's 142 in Sky if you live in the Republic.
That is correct.
And 102 in the north. Again, thanks everybody watching. Great to have some interaction on the show this morning. We've got Phoebe Schechter coming on in a few minutes. I'm going to try and contact her here now. And multitask, but Chargers at the Ravens. Let's go through that game quickly. Chargers 4-1 at the Ravens, who are 4-1 as well. An intriguing game call. This game is on Sky, yeah.
I don't think we can go through this one quickly. This is game of the week. this, I mean, for when they were picking, Sunday night games, this should have been it, because this is 2 4-1 juggernaut teams. I mean, you're looking at Herbert, who almost went for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, versus Lamar Jackson, who went for 440 and 4 touchdowns. Now, on the other side of things, the Ravens gave up 400 to Carson Wentz, and the Chargers gave up over 300 to Baker Mayfield. But despite the fact, and we did discuss it last night, the Chargers are awful against the run, but they find ways to win games. And I think that comes down to the head coach, who has been a breath of fresh air in the league, in the way in which he talks about football, in the way in which he talks about the various controversies that have happened over the past few weeks. But I will say, in fairness to the Ravens, and I did say it last night, they have overcome adversity time and time again. They've lost players to injury. They just get on with it. I could see this game going either way, but I think Austin Eckler is going to be a difference maker. I'm going to go Chargers. I think Justin Herbert is a special player, and I really think that they are destined for big things this year.
I said last night this Chargers head coach would be a good Taoiseach or First Minister. He's very efficient.
He is, but I also made the point last night that I felt that this Chargers team were building something before the season ended. We had a situation where, Anthony Lynn unfortunately lost his job, and he's gone to Detroit now as the offensive coordinator, that they were losing games because of bad coaching decisions. They were putting themselves in positions to win. Herbert is 8-1 in his last 9 games, so he is creating that winning mentality, and he's winning games like last week against the Browns, where for a long periods they were back and forth. There was 4 lead changes in the fourth quarter, and it looked like for a long time the Browns might have just pulled that win out. But yeah, he found the way to win at the end. So he's getting that mentality, and the team is building that. Their Chargers for years have been known as a team that just struggling to get over the line. But we're seeing it this season. They are getting over the line. 2 very offensive-minded teams. Like Ravens are number 1 in the league against the 7th best offense. So 1-7, they're putting up an average of 35 to 40 points. But on the flip side, both defenses are struggling. They're both in the bottom 10. Collins alluded to in terms of the run game. The run game for the Chargers in terms of defending the run is non-existent. And they're going up today against the number 1 rushing team in the league. And large parts of that comes from the quarterback more so than the running backs, because they're crippled with injuries. They brought in Murray from the Saints, who's done reasonably well. But Lamar Jackson is the spearhead of that running game. I see a high-scoring game here. I see both teams putting up points on each other. And I think this one, I keep kind of putting this out every week. These type of games are really important come January. Which one wins this game tonight? Because it comes down to a particular playoff game, who's at home as opposed to who's going on the road. For me, I think the Ravens will win this game just.
It's funny, we're talking about the Chargers, gussing it out last week. It was against the Browns, in fairness, who have their own history of throwing away games. But what an amazing game that was last week in that situation. And the Ravens obviously on a bit of a boom, coming back from the Monday Night Football, coming back from that 19-point deficit to outlast the Colts. For me, the news that Mike Williams is likely to play is huge, that he needs them in that downfield threat. And Austin Eckler so far leading the way on touchdowns, 7 touchdowns in total. He is a threat on the ground as well as in the air and receiving threat. But the Ravens can be made one-dimensional. I still come back to Mark Andrews. Can someone please just defend Mark Andrews? Last week against the Colts, 11 catches for 147 yards. If you take him away, if you take that security blanket away, you do limit what the Ravens can do. And I know that's easier said than done, don't get me wrong. But teams have to try and pivot. And the Chargers, for all our criticism, and they are abysmal against the run, do have a front four that can get pressure, do have a mobile front four that can hopefully hem in some of Jackson's escapability, and they do have a decent secondary. So when teams are limited to just passing the ball, they look very good. If teams are running the ball, they look pretty bad. I am really torn on this game, but in its heart, I ultimately trust a little bit more in Brandon Staley, a little bit more in Justin Herbert. So I've got the Chargers edging this. But it should be, get your popcorn, guys. This should be a great game.
Sorry, I just want to make one quick point. If the NFL season was played in October only, Lamar Jackson would be laughing because he's never been beaten in October.
Never.
He's the best quarterback record since 1970 for a quarterback playing in October.
What's his playoff record like?
Well,
I agree with you. I agree with you.
well,
It's
I know
unreal.
we're going to come to that later in the season, but
But Michael, hey, Patrick Mahomes never got beaten in September. That got blown up this year. So maybe Lamar's October record goes.
There's actually a bit of breaking news from our friend Ian Rappaport. Mike Williams is playing today, expected to play today. That came through just there now. We got Phoebe Schechter coming up in a few minutes. My pick today is going to be the Chargers. I think they're better than Vince. I think the Chargers, pains me to say it, are for real. Herbert looks fantastic. The fact they said this last night, he's only 23 years of age. I think he's pushing to be MVP as it stands. Seriously, I think we're a few weeks away from that talk. Was it one of you said last night that you think they'll fall off? Was it you said you think they'll fall off?
I didn't say fall off. I felt that.
No, yeah, like just...
we were discussing the division as a whole because there was a number of questions that came in from the audience last night, and one was around: do we believe the Chiefs are finished? Probably that's a bit of a strong word, but I felt that what will happen is I believe the Chiefs at some stage will get it right on defensively. They'll go on a run, and I think some teams will beat the Chargers, including the Ravens. Today, I think the Ravens will win, and what will happen is they'll close the gap. And come November, December, that division will really hot up because those teams will be leading for the playoff in terms of winning the division and potentially getting a number one seed. Who knows?
Okay, just quickly, because you say you can make the Ravens one-dimensional. I've heard that now for years. I've heard, oh, you just need to stop Lamar, just keep him in the pocket. Good old Vic Fangio tried that. He beats you with his arm. Or you just need to stop their run game. No matter what you try and do, Lamar Jackson finds a way. Both of these QBs, Michael, could be MVP. I think this really fascinating. I've gone with the Chargers. I could flip a coin and go Ravens. This should be a really great game.
They seem to find a way in January, though,
Colin. Look, I think they'll be playing each other again in January, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can see it. Definitely see it. And that's why it's important. You know, if it's a seeding situation where both of them are up there looking for number one seed, who gets it is really important.
Let's see what happens. We want to thank the 3 Points Cafe for fantastic coffee this morning, opposite Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and also Shark Productions as well. We'll talk about that more at the end. We're going to try and get through one more game before we bring Phoebe on. Minnesota going to Carolina today. The Vikings 1-3. The Panthers are 3-2. McCaffrey's on IR, misses at least 3 games. Colin, who wins this game and why today?
Nightmare for the Panthers. After such a great start, it's all beginning to crumble a little bit. Like losing Christian McCaffrey, probably the most dynamic running back in the game in terms of what he can do. He offers you so many different options. And look, for any viewers, signs of the apocalypse. The Vikings were on the right side of a last-second field goal. Be afraid because that rarely, if ever, happens. But for the Vikings, we've talked about it time and time again. They are capable of beating anybody on their day, and any team that has Justin Jefferson playing as he is. And look, they've been playing without Dalvin Cook, and they still found a way. One thing to watch, I think, for both of these, both very good pass rushers, and both QBs have taken a lot of sacks. I think that the Vikings will have enough to do this. But I'm really intrigued to see how Sam Darnold does. I think the next kind of 3-4 games are huge from Sam Darnold. Otherwise, it's going to be the narrative of back to his time at the Jets. But I think the Vikings will have enough. I think the Vikings move to 500 today.
Here you go.
Well, see, Sam Darnold, at the first few weeks of the season, I was waxing lyrical saying, I told you guys, it was a problem with the New York Jets. It wasn't Sam Darnold. He's a very efficient quarterback. I'm now starting to see the situation that's unraveled over the past 2 weeks is the fact that McCaffrey is so important to this team. And if you have McCaffrey, it allows the quarterback to kind of do play action and all the rest. He's thrown 5 interceptions in the past 2 games as opposed to 1 in the first 3 games. So he's kind of going back to the old trace you were saying. And he's going up against the Vikings defense that was really bad last year, but they seem to have turned it around. I wouldn't say that it's dramatic, it's gone full circle, but they're improving. They're second in the league for in terms of most sacks. And I think he's going to have a tough day. The fact that McCaffrey's out now and he's actually gone for a month now. So On Thursday, he was 50-50. He was ruled out. We said, fine, okay, this game has come too soon. Now they've made a further statement say he's gone for a month. To be honest, this probably could. It certainly looks to me like it's going to derail their season. I haven't started so positively at 3-0. Yeah, I'm with the Vikings as well. Dalvin Cook didn't play last week. It looks like he's going to play this week. He'll be fresh. Panthers defense has been very strong this year, but you're going up against Cook, Jefferson, Thielen, Cousins having a good season. They should have won other games. Vikings for me.
Colin has signs of the apocalypse. I'm going to give. We're honing in on Halloween, guys. So there's Jason Voorhees, there's Michael Myers, there's Freddy Krueger, and for NFL fans, the things that strike fear into you are, well, Nathan Peterman playing quarterback, or Nick Saban coaching in the NFL. I'll give you another one. Kirk Cousins being a road favorite in an NFL game is something that should strike fear into you. I'm less concerned. Obviously, McCaffrey's a big loss, but the bigger problems for the Panthers have been their O-line. They've been missing the left-hand side of their line, and hopefully Irvin and Elfin will be back fit again tonight. But in their absence, the last 4 games, last 2 games, 8 quarterback sacks, 19 quarterback hits. That's been equally a point in Darnold's poor play as just Darnold himself making dumb decisions. But although he does do a few of those. For me, the Vikings with 17 sacks, second in the NFL so far, are going to get enough pressure on him to force him into difficult things. But again, it involves the Vikings. Please bet responsibly. Don't involve the Vikings in any bet whatsoever, although I do think they're going to win.
I think the Vikings are going to win as well. I think they'll get over the line, and I think McCaffrey is just too important for the Panthers. It'll be interesting how Sam Darnold plays without him. That'll be very interesting. We're going to take a quick break because after the break, we have Phoebe Schechter coming on. Delighted to bring Phoebe onto the show. We'll see you in a couple of minutes here on the Irish NFL Show. Okay, folks, welcome back into the Irish NFL show live from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Rudimental is practicing in the background, nice and loud, as last week was. We're delighted to be joined by Phoebe Schechter. Phoebe, previously with the Bills, 2018 to 2019, now coaching in Germany as well, playing for the Great Britain ladies team as well. Phoebe, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome in.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited, and what an incredible backdrop we have here.
Really appreciate it, and we'll get talking about your work today and what you're doing in a second. But we ask every guest this: have you any Irish heritage yourself? Have you ever been to Ireland? I mean, presume you played.
I have. I've kissed the Blarney Stone and everything. Very traditional, but it's beautiful. I love Ireland. I've got Scottish. I don't have Irish, unfortunately.
Oh, it's grand. It's grand.
Glad to hear you made it to Cork as well to kiss the Blarney Stone. We had a good Cork contingent in last night. I suppose Michael alluded, like, you've had great career both playing and coaching. Can you talk to us and the viewers a little bit about your experience with the game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had no intention of ever being involved in this sport, right? I grew up working with horses, and that's what brought me to the UK. Obviously, we're known for our horse culture around here, or more up north, I should say. But when I moved over here, I was just looking for a way to meet people. I was 22. I moved by myself, and I happened to see an ad on social media for an American football team based in Manchester. And, you know, I always say it, but honestly, when you're out of your comfort zone, you're so much more willing to take risks. I had nothing to lose, so I went for it after never playing contact sport, and that's really how I got started in it. And then, I mean, my career escalated because I've got dual citizenship. So my mother's British, hence me being British as well. And then I just thought, I was hoping I wouldn't play forever, and that's why I got into coaching. And then here we are today.
Phoebe, can you just talk to us about your time with the Buffalo Bills? You know, they're such a heavy favorite this year in terms of potentially going to the Super Bowl. They were very close last year, unfortunately lost in Kansas City, who they beat last weekend. So much expectations. Your time working there, that experience, and what's your thoughts on the team in general at the moment?
Sure. So I was essentially an offensive assistant, specifically with tight ends, which was great. So to see Dawson Knox and Tommy Sweeney doing so well this year is always a win for me. But in terms of the day-to-day roles, I mean, I was really fortunate because I sat across from the head coach, from Sean McDermott, from the general manager, from Brandon Bean. You know, I had the Pagulas on either side of me, essentially, but I was also pretty much on the corner of the building. So I had all the defense and special teams and all offense the other way. So, I mean, they were so like progressive and inclusive and wanted me to sit in on everything. So I was able to sit on defensive meetings. I assisted special teams with their scout teams, same with offense, you know, drawing cards, setting up practice. There, you know, the roles kind of went on, but just being a part of Buffalo and I think what's so special about it, and you're starting to see that now with the way that they play, is that you go to work every day and you want to be better, not just for yourself, but for your teammates. And when you have that culture around you all day, every day, it is infectious, and you just want to be your best all the time.
We were fortunate to interview Jim Kelly, the former quarterback, last Christmas, and he made that point. It's something unique about Buffalo. Unless you're involved in it and as part of that culture in that area, you don't really feel it to a certain extent.
Exactly. And Jim Kelly's great. He comes to our offensive meetings. He sits in on them and he helps Josh out, and he's always there, you know, for anybody that needs anything. If they have a question, if they see something, he'll come to practices. So, I mean, looking at the support that you have from those incredible stars from, you know, all these years is just amazing to have that.
Yeah, he talked about the relationship he had with Josh Allen, how much he saw the potential in him, and obviously his growth has been fantastic, especially into year 3 and again this year. You know, tearing up the Chiefs last week, which was quite enjoyable for a number of people. I'm conscious. I mean, Phoebe, your time. You know, you say it as a player. I love the way you downplay as well. You say, "Oh, you play a bit, but you're also the captain of the Great British team." Did that really help in Buffalo? The fact that you're a player as well, because obviously the question of wider diversity in the NFL is a big question, even more so, obviously, with recent scandals and developments. But with an owner like Kim Pagula there, and with your background as a player, did you find that really helped in that environment?
Yeah, and you know, it really helped me my first training camp. So I definitely had no idea what I was doing, right? I mean, the level from British American football to the NFL, that's a massive leap. Yeah, exactly. So one of the things we did, and I was with a coach named Gil Bird, who played in the NFL for years. His son plays. And we were like, all right, we have to find a way to get these guys to trust you, right? That's what football is about. We talk a lot about trust and vulnerability. So he knew that I played American football, and he knew that I play a crazy sport called kabaddi, which people might remember from the 80s on TV, being like, no idea what they're doing there. But it's all about tackling, right? And that for me is my forte, and that's what I love about the sport. So we created a highlight reel of my kabaddi and my American football tackling, and we showed it to our DBs. And that was, I mean, they all were like, oh my gosh, like, she is in, because I do everything with 100%. I've got no middle ground there. And once they saw that, they were like, okay. And they still now today are like, I've seen that kabaddi video. I show people it. It's just a really cool way to kind of bond and build trust.
Were they there going like, don't annoy Coach Schechter? Like, just don't piss her off.
I know. I'd always try and like tackle. Like, we had Logan Thomas at the time, so he's one of our tight ends, and I'd be like, "Come on, let's just play a little kabaddi." He's like, "You're gonna get me in so much trouble."
You're obviously coaching over in Germany at the minute as well. You were on Jeff's show recently talking about that there. It has, I know there's a load of fans in Germany, European League of Football as well. We're chatting to Patrick Azume last week. It's amazing to see the growth there. What's it like coaching over there? And obviously a game now next year, who knows where it's going to be, but it's a really good time to be a fan here in Europe, isn't it?
Massively. And Germany has such a wonderful embrace for American football. I mean, we were GFL 1 and we would get 2,000 to 3,000 fans at our games, and that was with COVID protocols. So, I mean, the fact that they're all there, you have dancers, you have cheerleaders, you have the whole American football experience that we love about the NFL and the sport. I think it's really exciting to think that there will be a game there, and like you said, they have the ELF, and that was a massive success in terms of watching the final, being in that grand stadium. It just makes the sport so much more professional. The fact that you're able to pay guys to play the sport. And one thing I like about the ELF is that they're really trying to build up the actual nationals from the countries, right? They want to make sure that they become the starting roster. It's not about the imports that are coming in, although they will raise the level of the game. But no, I mean, being out in Germany, people are, they'll see you in your gear and they'll be like, I loved your game last week. I mean, you don't get that around here.
No, I suppose while the skies are grey, we can hear the excitement beginning to build behind us. And obviously, last week maybe didn't live up quite to what we hoped, but this week could be really good. You've been involved both weeks, I think, with TalkSport. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Phoebe?
Yeah, and I was so excited. So this is my first time doing commentary, especially live like that, which is definitely a big learning curve. So I survived, and they asked me back again, which is great. I didn't do too bad. But like you said, I mean, last week wasn't the most exciting of games. It got a bit more exciting towards the fourth quarter, where they thought they had a chance. But I do hope for today. I know Miami was here last time. They didn't put any points on the board, and they've got such a massive fan base here. You walk around, you can't help but deny that kind of teal and orange colors that are surrounding here. Even though Jags are our home team, they love Miami here and Dan Marino and the history that comes with it. So I'm really hoping that we get a good show from them today. I know that they're going to be desperate. Miami's going to be desperate to win, and so are Jags. So it should be pretty cutthroat, and I want to see that. I know everyone wants to see that.
Just before you came on, we were actually discussing probably the most exciting game potentially today, which is the Chargers against the Ravens, and two fantastic quarterbacks. The league, Justin Herbert at the moment, we're talking about potentially MVP. It's very early on. Your thoughts on the season as a whole so far? Is any other particular players that are standing out for you?
I love watching Lamar Jackson. I just think you watch him and he gets people excited in the sport. You think kind of back to the Michael Vick age, where I know a lot of people in their 30s, 40s who got involved in the sport because of him. So now having Lamar Jackson come through and he's kind of creating his own play is just amazing not for the US, but actually for the UK and the Europe, to get people to buy in. But I mean, you can't deny Justin Herbert. He has come out and he is killing it. I mean, the last week's game, he was on fire. The way that he was connecting with his receivers, it's interesting because if we're talking about that game, him and Lamar are so different in terms of their mentality. Lamar's got the confidence and the experience, and he has a few seasons under his belt. But Justin Herbert comes out and he's just mature. He's way wiser beyond his years.
And I suppose for this game today, because thankfully Tua is going to be available and play today, he went slightly ahead of him in the draft. So there's always going to be the comparison between the two players, and we really haven't seen a lot out of Tua. Last year it was quite up and down for him for his first season, and obviously he got injured. So it'd be great to see him play here today.
Yeah, definitely. And I know a lot of people are excited. I mean, the fact that they can say, oh, he's come back to play for our game in London, that's something that they'll really remember. And he's going to be keen to try and make his mark as well, because he knows the weight of the team. He knows that Miami's been in this kind of rebuild for a few years, and they want him to be the franchise quarterback. So, it's finding a way to manage that pressure, but also give us that excitement that we saw when he was being drafted.
Yeah, I love you mentioning about Lamar and about the excitement about Michael Vick. I mean, we need those video game players, like, the Madden player, the Tecmo Bowl player type of thing. And Lamar definitely brings that. And of course, you mentioned Marino. I mean, that's the thing. People want superstars to seize onto. And that's why the Dolphins, according to a survey, are the most supported team in the UK and Ireland, which
Wow.
for Broncos, Giants, and Pats fans isn't necessarily a good sign. But I mean, that's obviously what you're saying, the build up and the excitement around them. They've been over here 4 times already. We talk always a lot about quarterbacks, Phoebe, but for me, actually, the most important position on the field after the quarterback is tight end, because they're important in the run game, they're important in the passing game, and a good two-way tight end can transform your team. You mentioned, obviously, about your time in the Bills working with some really great tight ends there, especially Dawson Knox. Yeah. In the game today, and obviously in the season so far, I mean, we could talk about Zach Ertz being traded if you like to the Cards, but I mean, who you will see as a coach and as a player, like you've been catching your eye in terms of how they've been performing at that position?
I mean, it was great to see Andrews last week. He really took off. We got flashes here of Pitts, right? I mean, we didn't know what he was going to do, and that was really a big game for the tight ends to have to step up with their other weapons kind of being out of action. And that was just kind of a glimpse of what he can do. He was drafted for that reason. And the fact that he just creates such a mismatch with the matchups like that, and the way that he can go out there. Yes, he can block and he'll get after it, but his catching radius and his elusiveness and his routes, I mean, that's what you're looking for in a tight end. And like you said, it's not an easy position, right? You have to know, you pretty much have to be a quarterback, because you have to know what the line are doing. You have to know how it looks, right? We have to play with vision, understand what the defense are doing as well. It's a really tricky role, and it's not for this, somebody who's not a smart football guy.
Yeah, I was unfortunately watching the game from home last week. I wasn't with these boys. I was locked away. But on the commentary, the NFL Network covering it, there was one. It was just a simple out route, effectively. But they were lauding the fact to say that's a tight end. By the way, again, he's just beating the corner off the line, beating him to the edge, and it was an amazing catch as well. So it's like he's got all those skills, and exciting to see.
Phoebe, I feel like we could talk to you all day about football, the NFL works. I want to wish you, first off, the best of luck today in TalkSport. I know you'll be appearing on NFL Overtime as well throughout the season as well. Hopefully see you in LA in February. And look, thanks a million for coming on. We'll put your Twitter on our account as well to get people to follow you. And enjoy the game today. Best of luck in TalkSport. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys so much. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Phoebe. Thank you very much. Folks, we'll be back in 2 minutes. Richard Greaves coming on in about 20 minutes. We're going to build up to more games here on the Irish NFL Show. Come here, we're live. What's up? You all right? All good?
And
We're back
live,
live.
are we?
This is the joys of live internet, live TV. We're back live in the Irish
Well,
NFL show.
I just wanted to make a point, not on the game itself. Rudimental are playing a half time today, and Michael said, "Oh, Rudimental are playing a half time in the practicing here." I've no idea who Rudimental are.
I've been waiting all night for you to tell me what you. Have you ever heard of that song? No. Anyway, look, we'll see it later on.
Is that not Carrie Underwood?
That's the song. Look, there's a whole thing here. Rudimental playing halftime.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. There is, as far as I know, a corporal singing the US national anthem. I'm not sure who's singing the UK national anthem. No idea, to be honest with you. We'll come back to that there. We have a few games to roll through. Thanks so much to Phoebe for coming on. That was fantastic. Great crack chatting to Phoebe. Richard Graves coming on in about 10 to 15 minutes. Richard's doing NFL Network today. I'm still talking, so I'm going to move on. Green Bay at Chicago. Good to meet a couple of Bears fans last night in the Fiddler in Kilburn. Who have you got today?
Aaron Rodgers loves playing at Soldier Field, and why wouldn't he? He is 10-3, and he has won 9 of the last 10. It's a bit like, I suppose, Brady giving the Eagles fans a lot of love in the lead up to the game the other night. Rodgers has done the same, but he has Devonta Adams, who is first for yards, first for catches, first downs, and targets. He is just ridiculous, and then they can hand the ball off if that's not working. For the Bears, they have, finally gone with Justin Fields, but it's not going to be enough for them today. I think the Packers are going to 5-1 for me on this one, and the Bears fall to, going back to what, 3-3.
I think something that's kind of not being discussed too much throughout the season, because it's always about Aaron Rodgers and it's always about other players within the offense that are so explosive, is how good their defense has. It's improved. I know the secondary is still a bit of a concern, but I think they're ranked in the top 10. I think they're 8. And bearing in mind how the season ended last year and how poor it was, and having drafted in the first round in the secondary, that's how quickly I suppose it's evolved, that they're now looking a little bit more dominant. And they're going against a Bears team. Justin Fields played reasonably well last week. They got a good win in Vegas, but it was more so on the defense. And for me, Rodgers has won his last 6 games on the road in this division. He has everybody's number in this division, which is why they probably win this division out of canter. So for me, I think the Bears are moving in the right direction, but I think this game has come a little bit too soon for Justin Fields. I think the Packers will win. I wouldn't say comfortably, but I think they'll do enough to win the game.
Well, look. I mean, column gives Aaron Rodgers' record to Soldier Field. He's 20-4 overall against the Bears total. This is a rivalry, probably the most historic rivalry in the NFL. And if you go back, the Bears were always on the right side of this between 1933 and 2016. They had won the most overall games, but now the Packers have a 6-game lead, which is the biggest they've ever had in history. And it seems like there's only one way this is going. But okay, let's make an argument for the Bears here. There's back-to-back road games for the Packers, which is never an easy slog. Soldier Field isn't an easy place necessary to play, except maybe for Aaron Rodgers. But the records say what the records are. The Bears are only 1 game out of the division lead. If they win this game, they and the Packers will have the same record, and they'll have the tiebreaker. Trying to find positives is difficult because we have 1 game of very, very, very bad Justin Fields and 1 game of very, very good Justin Fields. So what we can expect from the offense on the Bears is really a big question mark. And the very expensive, very talented defense for the Bears has not played as good as we all expected at the start of the season. A random good bit of good news for Bears fans. They don't have Cody Parkey kicking the ball anymore, which is always good. And if I look at the season so far, you got Harrison Butker, McManus, Younghoe Koo, Chase McLaughlin, and Cairo Santos, who have not missed a kick at all. No extra points or field goals this season. So Cairo Santos, Bears fans, you have a kicker. Clearly, nothing's going to go wrong. Have I cursed it enough yet?
We think we know what's going to happen.
I've cursed it enough. I actually genuinely can see where the Bears win this game, but I don't have enough conviction in it to pick them. I'm going with the Packers as a safe pick, but I really do think it's going to be close.
I think, well, first off, yeah, you really have double doinked it now. Remember the double doink? Jeez, what a night that was, boys. I think the key in this game begins with C. It's not canter, it's consistency. Can Justin Fields and that Bears offense put up enough points to stop Aaron Jones? It's the Aaron Jones show here. Hand it off. Here you go. Here. Do you know what I mean? It's a joke. Like, he's just going to hand it off 4 or 5 times to Jones, or he'll throw it to him and it'll be grand. But look, at the end of the day, The Packers score 30 or 40
And
points.
also with Devonta Adams being number 1 in the league for yards, catches,
No, but
first downs,
this
and
is the thing.
targets.
This is the thing. If he hands off to Jones one play, happy days, Grant. He can run it with Jones. He can put Adams. Robert Tonyan hasn't done a thing all year, and as a fantasy owner, I'm getting annoyed. This has to be the week.
Michael, you're right. Like you're saying, Aaron Jones has been arguably one of their best players this
He's been
season.
great.
But last weekend, the Bengals defense has been quite strong. I know we're going to come to the Bengals Lions game. I think the Bengals are 11th, in terms of the ranking, they're 11th best defense in the league. They held up Aaron Jones last week, and then Aaron Rodgers throws for 360 yards. So if it doesn't work on the run game, he'll just go to the alternative, get it down the field.
Can I also question Michael's skills as an NFL coach in terms of like, hand it off there, you'll be all right. Like, hand it off there, you'll be all right.
I don't sound like that. And the funny thing is, somebody just commented, I right hand to God, Mark has a lovely voice. So there you go. I'm going to pick the Packers. I think they'll cover the spread. I don't even know what the spread is.
My lovely horse.
My lovely horse.
Maybe Mark will sing that for us this afternoon.
Packers by 14. But look,
Jesus.
What?
We're all saying, nip and tuck,
Packers by 14.
You just go out.
Right here.
Not your banker then, is it?
That's my lock of the week. I think
It
I think
is
the
now.
Packers will. It is my lock of the week, and as somebody that is on the verge of dropping Tunyon, I swear to God, can you please do something today? Just catch the ball 2 or 3 times, 50 yards each time. Happy enough. You don't need to score a touchdown. Just do something, please. 2 games to go through before we get Richard on, hopefully. Cincinnati at Detroit. Big game, Colin, today. Big game.
Well, a big game for Joe Burrow because the issue for Burrow has been fantastic at times. He's probably exceeded our expectations almost at times, but he has to protect himself. We saw him last week take a chance, ends up in hospital. He's been sacked 14 times this season. He's actually been sacked at a higher rate than he was last year when he obviously picked up that awful ACL injury. So to me, it's about protecting Burrow for the Bengals, but Burrow protecting himself. There seems to be maybe something of a trend amongst young QBs to want to prove themselves. I think maybe to show that they're not going to be bullied. You saw Zach Wilson here last week deliberately try to initiate contact. That's not going to end well with linebackers. So there's no need for it. Joe Burrow, you are a fantastic quarterback. We want to see you on the field. Stay there. And there's always, almost every NFL game, there's a way that for teams to win. And if you're the Lions, you're 0-5, things haven't been going well, in that you're just finding new ways to lose. But they're second in terms of hurries, fourth in terms of pressures. They just haven't been able to close the deal. But against this Bengals O-line, that might be an opening for them. I still think that the Bengals will have enough with Jamar Chase and Burrow, but I think it'll be a close one.
Here you go, Bri.
Michael, you apologised to the Jets fans a couple of weeks. Well, I'm going to apologise to the Bengals fans because the Bengals UK, Bengals Ireland, because when we did our season preview show, and even at the start of the season, week 1, week 2, I was continuously beating the drum about how disappointed I was that they skipped on Penei Sewell, offensive line. The offensive line still has its problems, and they went with Jamar Chase. But Jamar Chase has hit the ground running. He's the first rookie since 1988 to have multiple touchdowns, 50 yards or beyond. And the Lions have given up 100+ to receivers all season long, every game. Goff has now lost 8 in a row. He doesn't know what it's like to win anymore. So for me, the Bengals, on last night at our show, we were talking about surprises of the season. And head coach of the season. Sorry, that's what people were asking the question. I think Mark alluded to Chargers, and I think you all agreed. And I went with Zach Taylor because, again, we've had Michael Lombardi on the show, and he's criticised Zach Taylor, and he continues to criticise him, which he's that's well within his rights to do. So I'm starting to think now he is building something there. He had a tough loss last week, but in years gone by, we said it on Monday's show, they would have got well beaten by a Packers team. They were in that game, potentially could have won. I think today is a good rebound for them. They're going to Detroit and they'll win the game. I wouldn't say comfortably, but they'll win the game, and it just shows the progress that this team is making.
Yeah, you mentioned the Bengals fans kind of have it to throw back at people. Look at Jamar Chase, and he's been doing great. And yeah, there's stats to beat the band. 450 receiving yards, the most for a rookie since Randy Moss, and that's a good company to be in. But it's going to take one offensive line moment and one injury to Joe Burrow, and that franchise is in serious trouble. He's already had one last year, so I'm sorry, I still disagree with the approach they've taken in the draft. For me, this is all about the Lions. I mean, heartbreak and Detroit go together. I mean, I know we have Motown there, but they're not singing very many upbeat songs. There's a pretty much disappointment. It's like Flint, Michigan, and the destruction of the automobile industry there, for example. So Tom Dempsey previously had the record, 63 yards, longest field goal. He kicked it when time expired for the Saints to beat the Lions 1917. Justin Tucker, 2 weeks ago, the longest field goal in NFL history, kicked it when time expired to beat the Lions 1917. Their luck is so bad. They lost last week on a kick to the Vikings, of all people, who converted a relevant kick. This team, I've criticized Dan Campbell, the dude, a little bit. But they're playing hard for him. There's no doubt that they're playing as a united team. As a former player, he has that bond. And remember, he was a former player on the 0-16 Detroit Lions. So he knows what that futility feels like. And I think he's going to go in there today and he's a Metallica fan. So he's going to sing to them. And he's going to say, nothing else matters. And he's going to be the master of puppets, pulling the strings sufficiently to get them the win they need. They cannot drop to 0-6. I think the Bengals are a better team. They've definitely got a better quarterback, but the Lions need it more. So I'm actually going for the Lions to break their duck.
No, you're not.
I'm going the Lions.
Come on. I know we're in England and the Lions and stuff, but come on, man.
3 Lions on the chest, yeah.
There's the only 3 Lions reference you probably get in the Irish NFL.
First time this season the Lions have been picked.
I actually think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
it is. I want to thank Tip the Bengals for the retweet. Lads, thanks a million. I now apologize in advance. I'm picking the Bengals. I think there was a comment last week going, you're bringing us bad luck. Or somebody says, stop picking the Bengals. I am picking the Bengals. I just can't see how Jared Goff is going to get this Detroit team down the line. I mean, they could hand the ball off. What's the running back calling in for? He's on my team. Swift?
Yep.
Is he out?
Andre Swift's got a groin injury.
So he's out.
No, he's questionable.
And you're still picking the Lions?
I'm still picking the Lions. I think, yeah. Jamal Williams has also, I think, got an injury. But DeAndre Swift could, look, just imagine the Lions win. DeAndre Swift does play. How many Taylor Swift references do you think I'll get into the Monday night show? That's the way to think about it.
I'm taking the Bengals to win this game. We're waiting on Richard Graves to come on here now. We'll try and get through one more game quickly enough, lads. Houston at the Colts. I'm going to start off here, if you don't mind. I think the Texans are going to win. I think the Texans will win well. I don't think the Colts have a chance today, and I think questions need to be asked about the organization this season. I am shocked at the way the Colts have played so far this season, Colin. Shocked. I'm not saying something about the Texans.
Well, I don't necessarily say I'm shocked, because the Colts had all sorts of issues in the lead up to the season in terms of players getting vaccinated, injuries, etc. But to me, about the Texans, I would be very concerned if I'm the Patriots, right? Because Bill Belichick has had this magic, Bill Belichick has had this magic hex over rookie QBs, right? He's been able to do what he wants with them. He's been able to just make them see ghosts. He's destroyed them. He's got guys in tears. He's ruined careers. Davis Mills looked like Dan Marino against Bill Belichick's defense. Where was Bill Belichick's defense? 75% completion, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Dave Culley, he said, we're going to look to bring in more QB help. Wow, did Davis Mills respond or what? Kudos to Davis Mills, absolutely going in and showing who's boss. Of course, the Texans still lost, but
I was just about to point that out, Colin. I was just about to point that out.
He can't do it all on his own, and I did point out, I think they're still getting to know each other, given how many new players they have in week 6. Wentz threw for 400 yards though. Now the Colts did also find ways to lose. You got 2 teams here, one of whom is going to double their win total by the end of today. I think it'll be the Colts, because I think they'll lean into Jonathan Taylor. But I have to say, after a ropey start, Davis Mills has been impressive.
I'm going to focus more so on the Colts in this game. So they lost the game on the Monday night against the Ravens, but they lost a 19-point lead in the second half, and it's going to take away from what arguably was their best performance of the season. A couple of years back, the Colts went 1-5, 2018, and they ended up going 10-6 and going to the playoffs. And I look at the games coming up. If they win today against the Texans, they play a 49ers team that are struggling. Play the Titans. That game can go back and forth. We've seen it in the past. Then they play the Jets and Jags. There's an argument there that they could win 5 in a row, and I believe that they will win today and try right the wrongs of last Monday and potentially go on a bit of a run. And they have an offense to do. T.Y. Hilton is coming off injury reserve. You don't like T.Y.?
Is he fit though? I know he's coming off IR, but is he going to be good enough to play today?
I think he's the kind of player that could certainly have a performance against a poor Texans defense.
Don't write the
It's the
Texans
right
off.
game.
boys.
It's the right game to get him back. Next week he goes against the 49ers team, who have a strong
Have the
defense.
bye as well this week.
You need to, and so you need to get him in, and I think he'll have a good game today. Colts for me.
2015, they also still had Andrew Luck. Let's be clear. He's not walking through that door for the Colts anytime soon. The Texans offense, we talked about in other weeks, runs through Brandon Cooks. Like, he gets more receptions. I mean, he is the offense when it comes to the receiving game. And that is a fundamental flaw for them in relation to it. For me, it boils down to two key points. Laramie Tunsil is out. He's their best lineman. I don't want to say their line has been Laramie Tunsil and four strangers in the night, a bit like the Browns had in the playoff game last year, where Baker Mayfield's introducing himself to the O-line, but guys coming on the field. But he is by far makes that line, not only himself and shoring up left tackle position, but every member of that line better when he plays. And on the Colts side, Kwity Paye could be back this week. So you're talking about taking away the strongest lineman and bringing in probably the most dynamic pass rusher on the Colts side. For me, that's enough to definitely tip the balance comfortably in the Colts' favor.
Ooh.
I'm on the Colts today.
So I'm on the Texans. You're on the Lions. So we're having a bit of crack here, and the next game in a second will be a bit of crack as well. Richard is about 4 or 5 minutes away. He's just dropping stuff off on the field. Literally send the pictures. So
Keep going.
take your time, Richard. We're going to keep going. Very quickly, New Orleans, the Jets, the Falcons, San Fran on a bye week. If you're a fan of either of those teams, enjoy your day today. Chill out.
Red zone all the way.
Red Zone all the way. And if you're a fan of one of these teams, you might want to watch Red Zone tonight. The Rams going up against the Giants. Daniel Jones fit enough to play today as well. Colin, who have you got in this game and why?
Poor old Daniel Jones. He probably should have stayed in the concussion protocol because he's going to face Aaron Donald. And Aaron Donald, who had two Seahawks acting as bouncers last week to try and stop him, because he's marauding through defenses and he's just a wrecking ball. And unfortunately for the Giants, he's going to wreck their any hopes and dreams that they had today. This Rams team, I still have questions about the defense. I think losing Brandon Staley means that they have lost a little bit of an edge, but the Giants are beat up. The Giants will be they'll be competitive. They're clearly playing for Judge, but they just don't have the talent. And I said a few minutes ago, you can usually see a path for any team to win any game. It's difficult to see a way the Giants can win this game. It's the Rams going to 5-1 for me.
Go on, Brian.
Go on, Brian. Go on, Brian. Pick the Giants.
The 23rd ranked defense in the league is the Rams. They actually aren't having a good season. You look at the stats, they're having poor. Teams are getting after them. The Bucks got after them. The Cards got after them. Geno Smith got after them last week and went up and down the field on them. So Daniel Jones is back, and I know everybody has their concerns with Daniel Jones, but for me, he's making the right progress to be the long-term answer. He's coming off the concussion. So will he be fully functional? Hopefully, in terms of what I mean by that is that he's going to be allowed to run because he's such an effective runner with the ball, but will they kind of pull back from that? And then it becomes very one-dimensional. Galladay's out, Saquon Barkley's out. We are getting Slayton and Shepard back. So I do think the offense will have a reasonably good game, but our defense this season has let us down. When we did the season preview show, I picked the Giants to go to playoffs, and I picked on the basis that having had such a strong season last year under Patrick Graham defensively, that would only improve, and having brought in players during the offseason, that would only get better. It's gone completely the opposite. We're one of the worst defense in the league. We can't stop anybody. And Stafford has done 400 plus yards on nearly every team.
Well, I mean, you just alluded to one of the challenges, saying like, the Rams, they're 23rd defense. But okay, Geno Smith comes in. So backup quarterback, you necessarily haven't game planned around. So sometimes they take advantage for a couple of quarters. And you're talking about the Bucks and the Cards, who are two of the best offenses in the NFL. I assure you, the Giants are not in the category of one of the best offenses in the NFL, especially with the injuries you mentioned. Golladay being out, Barkley being
12th best offense.
Well, they won't be for long, and they won't be today, I'll tell you that. The bigger concern is almost, as you mentioned, the defense. 31st in the NFL in sacks achieved. The Rams don't let Matthew Stafford get touched. 4 sacks allowed only so far, and that is going to be the key thing. They're going to keep him clean. That's going to be more than enough to win this game for me. It is, unfortunately, Brian, the Rams all the way.
I didn't give my pick, so I'll give it.
Sorry, go ahead. Giants behind one.
No, being realistic about it, I think Colin made a fair point. The Giants will hang around. They play reasonably well. They play tough. Come the second half, the Rams will pull away.
Michael,
I think it'll be the opposite.
you
I think they'll come back in it towards the end. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
was going to say you'll have to wait for our matchbook bet at the end, but maybe the Rams might make an appearance in the betting questions for
There's
that
a
later
pretty
on.
good chance that's the case.
Potentially. Look, last week the Falcons Jets game could have got very ugly with about 5 minutes to go in the second quarter when it was what was the score? 17 to zip. I think this game today will be that sort of game. You have to ask a question: is Daniel Jones ready to play today? He clearly has been cleared, so he's fair enough. If I was him, I would have stopped this week out, took a wee bye week, and come back next week. The very best of the Giants, I think the Rams will be too good for them, and they'll come again next week. They'll come again because they done well 2 weeks ago.
Michael, if I had to face Aaron Donald, I'd take every week.
Yeah. You know what? Let's roll through the game quick enough before Richard comes in. Kansas City at WFT. My God. Revenge game, Mahomes, and revenge in the sense he needs to win, doesn't he? After Monday morning football, Sunday night football last week, that was great, wasn't it? In the airport, watching the game.
Yeah, waking up on Monday and Sunday night football is still on. Look, the Chiefs have lost 4 of 6, which under Mahomes is quite something. Yeah, there's Richard on his way in now in the helicopter. I think he's going to land down.
Maybe Neil's there as well.
That's Roger.
And look, the issue for the Chiefs has been just how bad their defense has been. It hasn't just been average. It hasn't been poor. It's been awful, just terrible. And as a result, we talked about last night, Mahomes looks like a guy who's trying to force it on every single play. He's throwing like a man possessed, but he's too on edge. I think fortunately they're playing a Washington team who I don't think will be able to take advantage. They took advantage of the Falcons, and the Falcons are the Chiefs are not the Falcons, I suppose, is ultimately what it is. I think this will be a bit like the game against the Eagles. The Chiefs will have too much. It's a nice game for them to get back on track, and they move back to 500. They move to 3-3 with a win over Washington today.
What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, the storyline for these two teams is very similar in many ways. It's what's happened to their defenses. We haven't gone to the Super Bowl last year. The Chiefs' defense since then is completely revamped back to what Bob Sutton, in terms of stats, in terms of what we're seeing, how difficult the defense is in terms of getting it together. Spagnuolo, I touched on it to show you today. I've seen it in the past because Spagnuolo has had 2 stints with the Giants. He tends to have 3 or 4 really productive years, and then the next 2 or 3 years, it's like as if the team just kind of, I won't say they lose interest in what he wants, but we've seen that he needs to get that back. And then on the other side, Washington, same scenario. We've all picked Washington to win the division, and we based a lot of that on, I don't think we based it on Ryan Fitzpatrick at the time thinking he's going to be the quarterback. It was all about the fact that Chase Young was rookie of the year, second year. He was only going to make the step up. And this defense had made some really good acquisitions in the offseason. They brought in Jackson, the cornerback from Cincinnati, who had a really good year last year. It hasn't materialized. It's 27th against 31st defenses. And one key point for me, the Washington offense has been really good, and McLaurin is starting to look like a really top of the top 10 wide receiver. He's out today. He's not going to play. That takes a lot away for them in terms of deep threat. And the Chiefs have all their players on offense. So for me, Chiefs will rebound off last week's loss.
Chiefs defense, guys, 7.1 yards per play is effectively the average they're giving up. It is abysmal. It is, I think, actually, since stats were created, it's probably the worst performance through 5 games of any NFL team. Stats created. We'll go back to ancient Greek times. It's still as bad as that. But they are bad. But I'll tell you another underlying story that's not been great this year. Actually, Tyreek Hill. He's had 2 games where he's nearly gone for 200 yards or over 200 yards. And then he's had 3 games where he was virtually non-existent. So which Tyreek Hill do we see? Unfortunately, if you're a Washington fan, your secondary has blown so many coverages. I think it's pretty clear we're going to see a Tyreek Hill that'll get closer to the 200 yards and have quite a bit of fun with that secondary today. But for me, actually, the storyline today is more. So I'm backing the Chiefs, but the storyline today is much more than just the game. René Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," the famous French philosopher. And what Dan Schneider is thinking about in terms of pulling up a retirement ceremony for Sean Taylor on 3 days' notice to deflect away the attention from obviously the scandal that's engulfed the NFL over the last week it's appalling, it's abysmal, it's blatantly disrespectful to Sean Taylor and what he meant to that franchise, and he delivered. And I think Washington fans won't allow it, and I think they are going to let him know how they feel about it regardless. So that for me is the story, and unfortunately, I wish Washington, not the team or its fans, but certainly the owner, nothing but ill will for the rest of this season.
Both teams have the same record, which is intriguing. Like you wouldn't if you told me in week 6 the Chiefs and Washington 2-3 each, it's just madness. Terry McLaurin's a massive miss for them. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I think Mahomes will come back in. I've started him in fantasy this week. Didn't start him last week, but he'll come in. And the thing is, though, it doesn't.
Very fantasy focused.
Very fantasy focused today. I've lost 4 weeks in a row now, so I need to
why.
try and get into it.
Someone is obviously driving you mad.
Yeah, people are giving me abuse on WhatsApp and stuff. Look, we're going to take a short break. We've got Richard Graves coming on after the break. Join us in a couple of minutes on the Irish NFL Show. Thanks for sticking with us. Welcome back into the Irish NFL Show. The last segment of the show today, 20 minutes to go. We're going to look ahead to a few games and also look at our betting segment at the very, very end. But you can see we've got an extra guest right now. Delighted to be joined by NFL reporter Richard Graves of Sky Sports, of This Week of NFL Network as well. You're the main man today, Richard. Richard, great to have you on in person. Welcome in.
Well, we were just talking off air, weren't we? It's been 18 months. We've joined on Zoom calls. We've spoken via WhatsApp. We're finally here together in person. I can't tell you what a relief it is.
It's been good, because obviously, and you know what? To be fair to Richard, fantastic support. Super Bowl preseason, the Cowboys Bucks game a few weeks ago. That seems like 5 minutes ago, but it's great to finally be here. Now you're the main man today for NFL Network, sitting watching Good Morning Football the other day, and he goes, "There's Richard Graves." So you're on site today.
Yeah, it's been a little bit different, obviously, as a British reporter working for the flagship network over in the States. But they've been great crew, great team over there, as well as on location over here. There's been some accent issues, which has certainly caused a few laughs over stateside. And then somehow, bizarrely, with Colleen Wolfe on game day morning yesterday, we got onto what's better, fish and chips or a Scotch egg. Colleen's all in on the Scotch egg. Got to tell you, she didn't persuade me.
Round table very quickly. Scotch egg.
Oh, fish and chips.
Fish and chips,
Fish and
absolutely.
chips.
Thank you.
Scotch egg's great, lads.
Not
Oh,
even
no.
close.
Come on. Scotch egg and a pint of Guinness. Different conversation, different podcast.
You're the younger generation. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm delighted with that. There, we've got 4 games to look at. We're going to start with your team, though. We're going to start with the Cowboys, right? Because we have to start with the Cowboys. You must be a very happy man right now, Richard. Going into New England today, this team looks good.
Well, they've arguably been the surprise team of the season. I think it's fairly safe to say. You know, we spoke prior to that opening night game in Tampa, and I was confident about the way the offense was going to roll. I think Dak has exceeded expectations in how quickly he's just seamlessly fitted into running that offense again. But on the defensive side of the ball, I can remember saying to you guys, if that defense can just be run-of-the-mill average for the season, then that'll be enough to see Dallas possibly into the postseason. They've been better than that. They still give up chunk plays. I think if you look after the ball, you can score on them. But Trayvon Diggs has been lights out. He is a ball hawk. And look, Dallas haven't had a player like that in the secondary since way back in Deion Sanders' time. Terrence Newman was probably the nearest thing they've had, but he wasn't a ball hawk. He didn't take the ball away. But Trayvon Diggs, on the other hand, look, I tweeted out last week when he made that pick against the Giants, do not throw at Trayvon Diggs. He's now baiting quarterbacks, and they're falling for it at the moment.
You help me? We'll let the NFC East man go next. All right.
He's going to love that.
Sorry, Richard. I had a bit of a rant on our show on Monday evening.
Really?
Yes, but a Giants fan, you know. So, but Kadarius Toney had a reasonably good game last weekend against that secondary, and some of those ones were on Diggs. So I think it's a little bit premature to be going into Deion Sanders road of.
Completely. No, I agree. What I'm saying is...
Sorry, it wasn't you, Richard. It was Troy Aikman.
What I'm saying is, I think if you've watched the Dallas Cowboys, the last time they had anybody in the secondary that hawked the ball like that, it was Deion. Now, we're talking 5 games into this season and a fragmented rookie season for Diggs. So there's a long way to go yet. But yeah, there's a reason to get excited about him.
Yeah, and actually, you were saying about the defense, Richard, they've done some changes you didn't expect. Like Micah Parsons has played more on the edge rather than in the center than you expected. And obviously, the defense has been shaped a lot more this season. But you know, Micah Parsons has been a key part. He hasn't been a revelation, but actually playing in a slightly different position than people might have projected him.
The most impressive thing about this Cowboys defense isn't necessarily just the way they've played, it's how they've done it, because they've had a rash of injuries on that defensive side of the ball. You know, Neville Gallimore, Tristan Hill were meant to be the starting defensive tackles. They haven't played a snap this season. They then lose DeMarcus Lawrence, arguably their best player on the defensive side of the ball, and 1 game into his rookie season, Micah Parsons is thrown into playing defensive end, and what do you know? He's lights out there as well. So, and then you look at the secondary. They've been, you know, their second round draft pick hasn't played a snap at corner. So Anthony Brown started opposite Trayvon Diggs. They've brought in obviously some free agent talents on 1-year deals. They've played well, the likes of Malik Hooker, Keanu O'Neal. So I think you can be pleasantly surprised by the way it's come together for Dallas. It'll be interesting to see whether they can play out over a 17-game regular season and then potentially into the postseason as well. But so far, so good.
Well, we got our picks for the game, Colin. Do you want to go first? So I'll take Dallas, right?
Well, I talked earlier on about Bill Belichick and what Davis Mills did to a Bill Belichick defense. If the Patriots don't wake up, Dak Prescott is going to have an absolute field day. Now, the Patriots got away with it last week because it was the Texans. But the Cowboys have weapons everywhere. They can beat you through the air. They can beat you on the ground. And as Richard has said, like the opportunistic nature of their defense, takeaways make such a difference. Just like sacks make such a difference. I think for the Patriots, I've no doubt Bill will respond. He'll find a way to slow this Cowboys team down, but it'll be a bit like the game against the Bucs. Ultimately, the Cowboys are going to have too much, and they're going to get the win today.
Yeah, very, very similar in many ways to that game against the Bucs, because the Cowboys have been so explosive on offense. They put up an average of 38 points per game, but Belichick found a way a couple of weeks ago. But a lot of that I felt was down to the fact that Brady was, I wouldn't say it's overall, but the enormity of the occasion and the emotional part that came in it, and he didn't really play that well. Gronk was out, which was a big. But this Cowboys, I mean, I don't believe there's anybody in offense out today. They're explosive. They're definitely going in the right direction. And we saw last week with the Patriots would play well, but they're not offensively where they need to be. Mac Jones is having a reasonably good start to his career, but it's very pragmatic, kind of conservative play calling, to allow him to just, feel his way in. For me, they won't be able to live with this Cowboys offense and Cowboys to win.
Patriots fan?
Yeah, I'm a Patriots fan, and look, this is a blockbuster matchup in all occasions. I mean, whenever I hear Cowboys-Pats, I actually always think back to the 2007 season, the 5-0 against the 5-0 team.
I was actually at that game.
I mean, the atmosphere seemed electric around there. You got T.O. going, get your popcorn ready, and it was a fantastic game between two really powerful offenses. First game, I think, where Belichick got given out to for his questionable late game decisions, where they still went for another touchdown, giving Carl Brady from Navy a 1-yard TD. But this is not your daddy's Pats in any way, shape, or form. And this is not the 2007 offense in any way, shape, or form. The Patriots' biggest problem at the moment is actually red zone. Red zone defense isn't lights out in any way, but the red zone offense is definitely spluttering. Something to be expected with a leaky offensive line, and again, more change to the offensive line for the Pats. A running game that hasn't got going. Damian Harris broke off a 40-yarder on the first play of the season and then hasn't been able to since, which I put more on the offensive line necessarily than the talent there. You guys have all said it. The Cowboys' offense is explosive. I don't believe the Pats can hold them in. And for me, the Cowboys are going to win this game, sending the Pats to 0-4 at home this season.
We've got literally 9.5 minutes to go through 3 games, which is going to be good fun.
Actually, Richard, I mean, Cowboys, is it?
Yo, Mark, Richard, sorry, man.
Yeah, I'm going to give a cheap plug here because I've got my own short podcast, Graves on Gridiron, out. This is one of the 3 games I've picked against the spread this week. Cowboys are 3-point favourites. I think they cover this easily as well because, look, you talk about the job they did, that Davis Mills did on them last week, or the job that they did against Tom Brady. Do not blitz Dak Prescott. All 3 touchdowns against the Giants last week came against the blitz. And if you're not going to blitz, then you best watch out for the run as well, because pick your poison. Zeke Elliott or Tony Pollard, they're averaging 5 yards a carry. So you align that with a Patriots offense, which just cannot put points on the board. I'd only see one winner here, and I cannot honestly tell you the last time I saw a Patriots-Cowboys game when the Cowboys were favourites going into a game in New England. I think they win this comfortably.
It's the first time that the Patriots have played where the Cowboys have the better record since 1981.
Well, there you go.
And the Pats have won the last 6 games or last 8 games against the Cowboys or something like that as well.
You'll be at home rerunning them on video this week.
This is,
you know what to watch today's game.
This is going to be a first for us. We've never rolled through this many games in such little time, but we'll give it a go, Richard, for the crack. Undefeated Cardinals going to the Browns. That's a hell of a game, and it really is. If not the game of the week, it's up there, obviously, with the Chargers, Ravens. Richard, just very quickly, how good is this Cardinals team? Look, adding Zach Ertz into the thing.
Well, I said right at the start of the season, I think, speaking to you guys, I thought it was a big season for the executive regime at Arizona and Cliff Kingsbury as well, make or break. They have been a pleasant surprise with the air raid offense, and I had them initially going into this game to win it. But the moment that you lose your head coach, you lose a number of members of your coaching staff as well, all COVID. Chandler Jones is on IR on top of that. I think that's a great leveler. I think Cleveland have got a lot to prove on the back of last week. Yep. I'm going to take the Browns.
No. Tom, who you got?
Unfortunately, I think Chubb is out for the Browns. And outside of Myles Garrett, I think Chubb is their offense. I think he's more important to them than Baker Mayfield. I think I'm really interested to see, as a Broncos fan, how Vance Joseph does stepping into kind of head coach duties today. I just think the Cards will still have enough, even without Chandler Jones. I think the Cards are going to 6-0.
The Cards are giving up an average of 139 yards per game on the run, and I know Chubb is out of the game, but Hunt on his day is still very effective, and I believe they'll have enough within the run game to continue that kind of trend. Interestingly enough, Oklahoma, 2 first-round picks, former players in that college, so going against each other. And Mayfield, for me, has been a bit, I wouldn't say erratic, it's probably not the right word, but he's certainly underwhelmed this season. I don't think we've seen the best of him. A bit disappointed last week in that particular last drive where he was going for dunk passes with the clock running. You would expect some deep balls.
Question the play calling though on that final drive.
It went very conservative, Richard.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
with 2 minutes,
It made no sense to me.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, but we've seen that time and time again with the Browns. This isn't the first time Mayfield, has been questioned around. Look, when he should be looking for deep balls to try win the game. And yeah, maybe it is down to the play calling.
I mean, look at week 1 as well against the Chiefs. You can question the play calling there. Stefanski's a great coach and he's turned the franchise around, but is the play calling too conservative when they could seize the day? Sorry, Brian, I'll interrupt. Who are you going with?
I'm going with the Browns. Actually, if you look at their records, they tend, in particular when they play at home under this head coach, they've won every game at home, rebounding off a defeat. For me, the Browns will win.
Well, I'll be honest. I've oscillated on this game so many times. It's unreal. You talk about Kareem Hunt. Ernest Johnson isn't a bad running back number 3 as well to fill in some of the snaps there they'll be missing with Nick Chubb going. The Cards, it's not just Chandler Jones. Zach Allen, though, very good defensive tackle, is also missing. So it's pick your poison. 2 factors I just want to say. The Browns can't defend against a running quarterback. Kyler Murray definitely fits that definition. And also the Cards, let's not get carried away. 5-0, but against teams with a combined 11-14 record. Flip a coin. Cards.
So I can make
go for it.
Last year, Murray got a shoulder injury when he went into Seattle on a Thursday night game, and he wasn't the same the following week. Or a little bit more conservative. He's been struggling with a shoulder injury this week. I'd just be interested to see how dynamic he is in the run game, potentially carrying an injury.
See, throwing dimes in like that, you've got to love that.
I'm going to take the Cards. I get the Cards going 6-0. The Browns going 3-3, which is a whole different conversation. Penultimate game. It's been a quiet enough week. Did you pick? Did you not? Sorry, my bad. Have I missed you again? Right. Do you know what? I'm just going to say out of this show. I feel awful, lads. I feel so bad. A public apology to Richard Graves live in the show. Richard, sorry, man. Taking the Browns, yeah?
Taking the Browns.
Taking the Browns, okay. I'm going to start you off, and I'm going to get your opinion and your pick on this game because I don't miss it out, right? Vegas, going to Denver. It's been a hell of a week, but who gets the win today?
Well, I'm going to make some guys on this show really happy because I'm on Denver all day long. I know they've got problems moving the ball and getting it into the end zone, but I think the Raiders are a mess right now. You know, they shot out the gate 3-0. The hype was around them. They could be potential Super Bowl contenders. People forget they scraped past the Miami Dolphins in overtime. And then, of course, they followed that up with back-to-back losses. And last week, they looked awful. There are mitigating circumstances quite clearly. Josh Jacobs hasn't been healthy all season to this point either. But this Broncos defense, I've got to tell you guys, I love it. It's all smothering. They've arguably got the best secondary in the entire National Football League this season. Give me Denver.
You got Colin?
I wish I could be as buoyant as Richard about the Broncos. On paper, the secondary should be, but the Ravens, I mean, Vic Fangio dared Lamar Jackson to beat him with his arm, and he went and did it. He couldn't stop an aging Big Ben last year. Big Ben looked like he rolled back the clock. I can see both ways both teams can win. I think for last week, for the Raiders, cutting out Gruden, it was clearly a cancer. That has been removed. Teams usually get a bounce out of that. My fear is the Raiders have. I don't know if the Broncos will score enough points. I think the Raiders will coalesce, come together, and put on a performance. I think there are big issues there and what they do. But I'm going to go with the Raiders, unfortunately, today.
I'm taking the Broncos by a field goal, but I am pessimistic of our chances.
In last week's game for the Raiders against the Bears, they completely revamped the offensive line. They brought the rookie, which was a controversial pick at the time. They brought him from right tackle into right guard because they feel he's not. Well, it's very early in the career, and they've moved things around. It didn't work last week. They didn't scheme against Mac. For me, this Broncos, I agree on this side with Richard. This Broncos defense for me is for real. I think what they brought in Bridgewater was to manage the game and allow this defense to dominate. And I think in this particular game, I know there's a bit of a kickback off when teams lose a coach and someone comes in and interim and a new voice. But for me, there's so many problems there at the moment. And Derek Carr started the season reasonably well. He's kind of derailed slightly recently. So for me, I think the Broncos will win.
Hey, if you're having male problems, I feel bad for your son. They got 99 problems, but the team ain't won. They have the players, the Raiders, still to win this game. And the reality is, I mean, if you want a West Wing reference, you're going to get Josiah Bartlett up there. And you're going to say, sometimes we're 50 individual states, sometimes we're one nation. Sometimes they're 53 individual players. This is a game where the Raiders have to be one team united under the circumstances they have. I mean, we're in London. We're not that far away from Churchill's war rooms and everything. You know, get out the Dunkirk speech. We'll fight them on the landing beaches. We'll fight them in the air with increasing superiority. We shall never surrender. If there's one franchise in the NFL that can band together at a moment of crisis, I think it's the Raiders, because they've had plenty of times where they've had to be that outlier. They've had to be that individual piece. And my God, the coaching staff, the general manager, Mike Mayock, the ownership almost has to infest that spirit. I think they can do it, and I actually think the Raiders will do it and surprise today.
A Churchill reference in the Irish NFL show. Happy days. Keep it going. Very quickly, we're going to look at Sunday Night Football in 1 minute. Very quickly, sponsors Matchbook, Code Irish NFL show for a bonus. Sterling and Yo-Yos over 18. What's the bet this week? Very quickly.
Well, I'm going to give my pick away, or our pick away then for Sunday Night Football.
Well, do it.
because
It's
the team
fine.
are
It's
in there.
fine.
But I call out the bet. Yeah, matchbook.com, our partners. Again, I've looked after us this season in terms of giving us some money to play some weekly bets, and
Some
we've had a
yo-yos.
reasonably good start. Unfortunately, we were derailed last week by the Raiders losing to the Bears, but this week we've gone for the Steelers in Sunday Night Football. We believe the Rams are, unfortunately for me, going to beat my Giants. We think the Colts will beat a hapless Texans team, and we think the Chiefs will rebound against a struggling Washington defense. So the 4 teams that we've selected for our bet this week is Steelers, Rams, Colts, Chiefs. It's paying in the region of 9-4, 5-2. Not magnificent odds, but on paper that is, they look good things.
Just realizing I picked the Texans. Code Irish NFL show. You can use it to get a bonus in ROI with euros and in NI with sterling as well. Feel free. Thanks again to the team at Matchbook for the support. And yeah, we'll talk more on Monday Night Football about how it went. We'll see the crack. We've got 3 or 4 minutes left. Richard, let's start with you. Sunday Night Football. Will you be awake to watch Sunday Night Football after? Look, I was sitting in the media last week and I was exhausted just sitting there. So I can't even imagine what you're going to be like at the end of the game.
Well, it's great dealing with the time difference when it's 8 hours back to LA as well. And you're broadcasting to an American network. Look, you just run on automatic and you go on right through. There'll be a column to write tomorrow morning. So heck yeah, we'll watch it.
Seattle at Pittsburgh. We were very fortunate. The week before you came on, we had the Steelers GM, the Rooney families have come on. So I feel bad if we don't pick the Steelers at this point now. But who have you got? Like, obviously, Russell Wilson out.
You've got to go Steelers. Seattle run as Russell Wilson runs. Geno Smith, fine. He did okay in relief last week. But there's a reason he's a perennial journeyman NFL backup quarterback. Look, I hear what everybody's saying about Big Ben, but he's still got the head, he's still got the experience and the know-how. And as we saw last week, he can still make the plays, albeit less frequently than it once was. Their defense is better than Seattle's. Hands down, it's not even close. Yeah, give me Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, this is the window for Pittsburgh. They have to win this game. There's no other choice about it. With Geno there, they have to win the game against the Seahawks. Can they do it? Let's find out. I think they will do it. I think they win it comfortably. I can't believe I'm saying that. Who have you got?
This is Manny Pacquiao against Floyd Mayweather, because it would have been a good
5 years
what a
after it
game.
should
Yeah,
happen.
5 years after it should have happened. And a bit like you always knew Mayweather was going to win that. You always know the Steelers are going to have enough here. Look, the Seahawks defense is atrocious, and therefore you can just see the Steelers doing enough. But for the Steelers, there will be bigger tests and bigger questions. For the Hawks, where they go from here. 2 great head coaches, and I'm sure Pete Carroll will scheme something, but it won't be enough.
Have you got Brad?
At our event last night, one of the questions came from the audience was, what's the most disappointing thing this season? And for me, it's just Seattle defense. And the last season, they started really poorly. They seem to have got it together in the second part of the season. Excuse me. And then they've got 4 games now, 450 plus yards. They just haven't got it right. And unfortunately, Big Ben last week against your Broncos played reasonably well. Claypool had a really effective game last week. And gradually, as the season's gone on, his yards per game have increased. So for me, he's starting to look a key threat again. Yeah, it's Steelers all day.
If you ever want to annoy a Seahawks fan, just mention Super Bowl 40. And this is a rerun of Super Bowl 40. And unfortunately, I can't see any way that's not the same result with the Steelers ultimately triumphing. Chris Carson's out. I mean, not only about Russell Wilson. I mean, that's the biggest story, that you're relying on Geno Smith, which doesn't end well. But Chris Carson being out has another big impact. People will say Alex Collins and his Eurovision 93 performance.
Irish dancing.
Yeah, River Dance, Eurovision 93, Michael, don't forget it.
More than 91. No idea.
You know,
I know he's won it 7 times, but I'll leave it at that.
he will try to substitute in, but he's not the same talent there. And for me, they just don't have the weapons. And yeah, the Steelers are going to win this.
Richard, we got Churchill, Eurovision references, the whole works here. I know we
I
have.
can't compete.
I got the cart in a minute ago as well, so we're having a good fun.
To wrap the show up, Dolphins, Jags, 2:30. Who's going to win?
There's a question, isn't it? I think it's a coin flip game, honestly, guys. Yeah. It depends literally who's playing well on the day. They're 2 teams facing adversity on the field, certainly with injuries off it. There's players for the Jags that haven't even travelled this week. How will Tua play coming back? How will he respond once he gets that first hit on those fractured ribs? It's going to be a one-score game. I would not be surprised if it's team in possession for the final drive that wins it.
Richard, that's exactly what I said on the preview. Thank you very much. Richard, I have to make it, but I like the way you say with us, it's just the Jags, where yesterday when you were on NFL Network, they kept pushing you to keep repeating.
They love the Jaguars.
The Jaguars. I want to thank you, Richard, for coming on the show. Anybody that watches the NFL Ireland, UK, Europe, follow Richard Greaves1 on Twitter.
Thank you.
Good content. Obviously, the podcast, the article tomorrow. We'll keep pushing that there. Thanks so much for coming on, man. And enjoy the game today. Thanks so much for coming on, Richard.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure, guys, and great to actually meet in person.
Absolutely. I want to thank you boys for coming on as well. We have to go in the media now and ask Urban Meyer some questions later on. It's going to be good.
I can't wait.
I want to thank the guys at Shark Productions, www.sjark.co.uk. I've got that right. Thanks, honestly. Thanks a million to everybody over the last 2 weeks. We've done it. We went to London. We've done it over 2 weeks. We've done it live. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Trust. Thanks to Matchbook. I guess we'll see you tomorrow night. 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock?
It depends on Mark.
Depends on Mark. 9 or 10. We'll see the crack.
Depends what times the kids go to bed.
Depends if we get the flight home or not. Thanks so much. We'll see you all tomorrow night and enjoy week 6.